UCI Cyclo-cross World Cup Race Series. And these are the taking the win last week in Iowa City. And coming to the line here in a moment as well. Last year's winner here, World Cup Waterloo. Tone Arts as well. Going to be out on the course here today in just a few short moments. You still got time to stop by Third Spitz Brewing. Get a drink. Make your way over to the start. Figure out if you want to be on the outside or the inside of the starting straight, because you're going to be wanting to run out. Check out all the amazing spots. Trek Factory Hill, proving a great place to spectate from.
As we're just a moment away from call-ups, as you said, just a moment or two away from call-ups, and then we're going to unleash this one in just a few short moments. I don't know how it can get better than our lead women's race, but the men are going to try, I'd say, as it's going to be a mutter out there today, one for the ages, as we don't see races like this too often. We saw one back in December for our USA Cyclo-cross National Champion. I'd say this mud rivals it.
As this harkens back to Valkenburg 2018. We know who did it over there. Probably easier than winning.
Yeah, keep going, buddy.
Racing out of Belgium for the Pound Sounds and Mingle and wearing number 19, Dieter Swig. Racing out of Belgium for the...
CrossWorld.com team, Curtis White. Racing out of Spain, wearing the number 25 for the Nesta Skoda team. Let's welcome up Kevin Suarez. Racing out of Belgium, for Group Hands, Maze Containers, Vincent Bastan. Racing out of the United States, wearing number 29, Gage Head. Racing out of Switzerland, wearing number 43, Kevin Kim. Coming to us out of the Netherlands, for the Creative Freestyle, Steven Walters. Coming to us from the Netherlands, wearing number 6, Country. Racing to us out of Switzerland, for the Swiss Racing Academy, your Swiss national champion, Ivan Rug. Racing out of
Gilman. Coming to us from the Netherlands, racing for the Telenet UCI Lions, Corne van Kessel. Racing out of Spain, your Spanish national champion for the cyclocross team, Tika. Let's welcome Felipe Orts. Racing out of the Netherlands, wearing number 4 for the team somewhere, Joris Newhouse. Racing out of the United States, wearing number 28, Gary Werner. Coming to us from Grand Prix team, South Canyon team, Sept.
Racing out of Belgium for group hands may continue. Racing out of Canada for Easton Johnny. Presented by Transition Rad-quer.
He's 3-time United States national champion, Steve.
Racing out of the Netherlands, Mike van der Heijden. Racing with number 33 out of the United States, Eric Bruner. Racing in the United States, number 34, Brandon Fitz. Wearing number 35, Tobin Hortonblad. Wearing the number 36, Eric Thompson. Wearing number 37, Kevin Bradford Parrish. Wearing number 38, Nicholas Lando. Coming to us from Switzerland, wearing the number 44, Lucas Winterberg. Wearing the number 39 of the United States, your hometown, Caleb Schwartz. Racing out of Austria, wearing number 50, Philip Heigl. Racing out of Canada, wearing number 46, Cameron Jett. Racing out of Canada, wearing number 47, Trevor O'Donnell. Racing out of the United States, wearing number 40, Scott Funston. Racing out of Estonia, wearing the number 51, Jarno Trey. Coming to us from Canada, Dominic Van Dale. Racing out of the United States, wearing number 41, Ross Elwood. And ladies and gentlemen, finally, from Canada, number 49, Christian Ritchie. That is all.
Hello and welcome to Waterloo, Wisconsin, USA. The round 2 of the Telenet UCI Cyclo-cross World Cup. I'm Johnny Sun. I'm being joined here in the booth by multiple-time U.S. National Cyclo-cross champion and world championship medalist, the evergreen Tim Johnson.
Well, I can't fight with an introduction like that. So we have a very, very muddy course here in Waterloo. We've got rain all morning. It is lessened throughout the day, still coming in drips and drabs a little bit here, but the story of the day is definitely going to be mud. Technical riding, a course that's challenging on its own, but really all about getting to the finish line for these riders.
And Tim, we're looking at the top 10 of the current UCI World Cup standings. Ili Iserbyt had a great ride last week, a sort of breakout performance for him. What stands out for you in this list?
Well, I think really it's about two Ertz. You know, the second place rider is a former winner here in Waterloo. He's known for incredible bike handling skills, so let's hope that he's able to get up into the front here. Jim Aronauts, we got Telenet Baloise Lions, full squad here. They've been working on the course throughout the morning. Grafin rider is going to be Gianni Vermeesch, winner of last week's C1 in conditions similar to today. Ili Iserbyt here, World Cup leader, fresh white skin suit. He's going to be getting very muddy. And next to him, Dan Sota, the Palace's own Bengal rider. He's going to be hoping to get up there. We haven't seen tread choices just yet, but I think they're all going to be full mud tires today, Johnny.
And here we're getting a look at Toon Aerts in his Belgian National Championships kit. And there we get the look at the tire. He is running a mud tire.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a Rhino up front and rear. Lawrence Wake, we saw him working this course out section by section over and over again, trying to make sure he can get the ruts down right. He's going to be a big favorite for today. Lars van der Haar, known for his fast starts, always getting the hole shots. Dutch rider hoping to get on the podium today. And it's going to be Michael van Toornhout, number 9. And, you know, I think that he's going to be one of the dark horses. It's going to require a lot of running, which he's very good at. So I think if he has a clean start, he'll be able to get up there. But it's all about Ili Iserbyt here, winning last week, setting the tone for the season. That young rider, former under-23 world champion. And he's definitely making it known that he is ready to play with the elite riders.
And like we saw in the women's race earlier, Tim, the experience is really coming into play. The riders who have a lot of experience there, they know how to avoid mistakes on these tough races. And and you can see the tension on the start line. We are almost ready to go racing here in Waterloo, Wisconsin.
Yeah, they wrap the tape out in front of the riders. They're looking at a red light that's going to turn to green. Happens anytime within 30 seconds here.
And look at the focus on Van der Haar.
Yeah, there's a reason why he always gets a whole shot right into the pedals, full gas. Here we go, 1,000 watts every single time they hit the start line. But Eli Iserbyt in the white on the left, really clean start. It's going to be a battle between him and Van der Haar. Almost a crash there for Van der Haar. You can see just how slippery that mud is as soon as you hit it at 30 miles an hour.
You saw Michael Ventorno get sideways on the pavement before he even hit the mud. I think there's mud tracked on there, and he almost dumped it half the field right there, Tim. As we're looking at Eli Iserbyt with the whole shot, grabs a clean look at the course. He's getting that white skin suit dirty. As he gets a clean look, he gets to pick his line. He's not following anybody right now. We're trying to sort out who else is in the top 10. We have a Telenet UCI rider, Tim. Who is that sitting in second place right there?
Well, that's going to be our Jim Arenouts, number 17, Belgian rider on the front row, still now in the front. It looks like Van der Haar, tough start for him. You can see riders trying to wipe their glasses clean. See the rider in white in fourth position. That's going to be Vermeersch.
You see Tone Aerts moving up there on the left. He's not quite in contact with this leading trio, but he's right there. There he is. He's moving up. He's bringing a ton of momentum as he's looking for that outside line. He's following his teammate up the outside there. Vermeersch is up there. Has had some really solid races early in the season this year, and we're starting to establish our lead group. There is some tough sledding at the back of this bunch, Ted.
Well, I'm surprised that it's actually split up this much already. You know, anytime you see a little bit of a crash, it will help split things up. But line choices are everything as they get into the first off-camber section. This is going to be a high-speed move. They haven't seen it for a couple hours now. The last practice session before the women's race was really the last chance they got to see it. This rut really wasn't developed yet. You can see how it spills out into almost nothing. Clean ride for Jim Arenouts. He's going to have a small lead right now, but it is absolutely chaos here in the back of the pack.
Yeah, Jim Arenouts made really quick work to get into the front there. He's got a little bit of a gap. Eli Iserbyt is riding very steady. The weight of that World Cup leader's skin suit, how is that going to affect him, Tim?
Well, I think Eli Iserbyt is on a high from last week. He's going to be really confident in his physical form, fitness being a big part of last week's win, with Mount Crumpet being a very intense climb. You had to do 3 times per lap. This is a different story, though. It is all about survival. You can see that, you know, the next time you put your foot into a wheel of a competitor, you know that that bike has to be on the ground in front of you. But transitioning from pavement into mud, so they're going to be getting back into the run-up. Clean dismounts for most of the riders. Trying to find a little bit of help from the banners on the right side and the left side of the course, Johnny.
And we saw Sven Nys working with the Telenet UCI riders earlier today. He was making them repeat sections over and over again. Really detailed instruction of how to best tackle some of these really tough parts, Tim. And we see Eli Iserbyt go back into the lead. He battled back. With about 5 riders, a little separation. Eli Iserbyt is back front. Arenouts is right there. Here comes Tone Aerts. Vermeersch is on the wheel. He's been riding well. He's battling through. Vermeersch is a very good mud rider as well. I think he feels very comfortable in these conditions, Tim.
Iserbyt leading into this left-hand turn. It's going to go into a small little rise over the stone wall. You know, one of the fun features of the Waterloo course is it really does bring a little bit of everything. You know, it's not just the climb or the descents, but it's features like this. Log wall, able to be ridden earlier in the week, but not today. The mud is just too thick. Tone Aerts picking it up. We've got Vermeersch. We've got Dan Suta there in 5th position. So that group of 5 starting to split up a little bit, but Iserbyt still in control in the front of this race.
And Tim, one of the big stories at the beginning of this World Cup season is not who's here, but who is not here. We do not have the reigning world champion Mathieu van der Poel here, and we don't have Wout van Aert because he is missing probably all of Cyclo-cross season with a bad injury he sustained at the Tour de France.
Yeah, the Cyclo-cross really the story of the year in terms of road racers having success at the front. Being from Cyclo-cross, Mathieu van der Poel, arguably the #1 rider in the entire sport, able to win almost at will. But that's not what they're thinking right now. I mean, these riders are so in deep into what is occurring on course, trying to stay in a rut like that. You just see them one after the other, trying to keep their wheels in there, trying to keep hold of what's going on. Lars van der Haar choosing to run. We've got Steven Hyde able to stay in that rut. But, you know, Van der Poel, #1 rider, Wout van Aert, 3-time world champion, also on the DL right now. Eli Iserbyt, he's taking advantage of it.
Absolutely. He obviously brought really great form in the season. He had a dominating ride last weekend in Iowa City. He made, although he rode away at the end, he made everyone look bad, and they were not riding slow. He just really brought it in very hot, sticky conditions, and he really put his stamp on it. It was his first World Cup win in the elites, and he really did it with some panache.
Well, he's trying to do the same thing again. Toon Aerts, last year's winner here in Waterloo, in 2nd position. Watching that young rider have a couple small issues, a couple small problems. It's really going to be the name of the game today, is to stay out of trouble. You're going to make mistakes undoubtedly, but do they have to be big, and do they have to happen every single time through the same section? You got to learn from your mistakes today.
And it's really heavy mud out here, Tim. It's soupier in some places. It's very heavy, almost peanut butter-like mud on the back of this course. These riders will be pitting a lot. What kind of strategy have they probably worked out with their pit crews of how often and how they're going to do that?
Well, as they head into the pits for the first time, you really want to know what that bike is going to have for tire pressure. You're also going to want to know that they can maintain the pace. Can you pit every half lap for the entire race? Is your pit crew professional? Are they ready? Are they prepared? Just like you would with training or nutrition, same thing with the pit. They need to be able to act on it moment's notice. Luckily, someone like Eli Iserbyt is going to be going into the pit without a big crash so far, but it's really not going to be like that for everyone. Constantly battling everything that this course is throwing at them.
And Eli Iserbyt and also the Belgian national champion choosing to take bikes their first time through. They're leading. They've created a little bit of separation here. Toon Aerts and Eli Iserbyt have created a little bit of a gap in the field as we see Vermeers come in to grab a fresh bike.
And you notice his mechanics are setting up on the right side because he is one of the riders that gets on and off the bike from the left side. Traditionally, that is how everyone that learns how to do cyclocross is getting on and off on the left side, excuse me, but it's actually the right side. It causes extra chaos in the pit as you see mechanics on both sides of the riders, but usually those riders know where they are against another, and you can almost anticipate someone getting off on the left side. Lawrence Swake, he gets on and off on the right side, excuse me, the opposite side. So you'll know that he'll be doing that. You can actually get a little bit of space and not get taken out by him, but a little bit of separation. Looks like Iserbyt making getting through that section a little bit cleaner. Toon Aerts having to hop off a little bit early.
These two have created a little separation, and Toon Aerts is watching him. He's an experienced rider. He's watching this young rider. He's looking at his lines. He's looking at where maybe Iserbyt will make a mistake or where he's not riding the course quite as well as Vermeers moves up into 3rd place.
Yeah, good first lap for Iserbyt. He's still in the front.
Toon Aerts still stalking him. He seems content right now. He looks like he's comfortable. He seems content, but here he moves. He moves into the lead. He has decided now he wants to drive. He wants to pick the line. He doesn't want to follow anymore. Vermeers is still in eye shot behind him, sitting there with Dan Sota. They're there. They need to make connection. They need to move up, but it's really a battle of the riders versus the course today, Tim.
Up and over the flyover. Iserbyt and Toon Aerts almost matching side by side. They've got a small gap. Looks like it's going to be at least 5 seconds. And that's going to be Dan Sota, number 14, followed by Vermeers, 3rd and 4th position.
We're looking at Eli Iserbyt on the front here, followed by Toon Aerts. We are still on our first lap, Tim. These are very long laps. Earlier in the women's race, as we see, Iserbyt rides the barriers. No one else has been doing that so far. That was amazing. It's very heavy mud there, but these are long laps. This will be a race of not actually that many laps today.
Well, and that just gives you only a few looks at the toughest sections of the course here, but this is Iserbyt and Toon Aerts going back through a couple sections. You see the front wheel of Iserbyt sliding out 2 times in a row, ceding a little bit of space to Toon Aerts. That's what's going to be happening throughout this race. Toon Aerts, he is just watching Iserbyt continue in front of him. You know, when you're riding behind someone and you see their lines, it can help you make a decision later. Maybe that will pay off, maybe it won't, but at least you know what's going on. When you're in the front, you can't really look behind you and see what's happening.
Damasota has moved into third. Vermeersch following him closely. These two are solidly in third and fourth, and they're just a little bit behind the two leaders. Toon Aerts has gone back around Eli Iserbyt. It really seems like they want to lead. They want to look. They want to choose their line as they come down this tricky off camber. And Iserbyt goes very low. He's trying to ride. Aerts choosing to get off earlier and just maintain his momentum there.
One of the first riders to ride down that entire section. You can see Vermeersch just sliding away. Some of the riders scrambling for toe spikes earlier before the start. You weren't really prepared for this. You know, you see the weather. It looks like it's going to be in the high 20s for Celsius. It's going to be dry. It's going to be fast. Not today. This conditions, as you see, just deteriorating every single minute.
And you see Toon Aerts just choosing to jump off, and they say preemptively getting off his bike before he runs out of momentum. Eli Iserbyt rode a little bit further in there. He just decided to just keep on the bike to save some energy. Running does take a lot of energy.
Yeah, it's really going to be important to try and find a way to use energy in an efficient manner. You have to be able to save some for later in the race. As we saw in the women's race, the lap times were changing, course conditions were changing. If you have to run, you have to be able to save a little bit for later on in the race.
And our leaders are making the U-turn onto the start-finish stretch. This is a very long lap. We are looking at 11 minutes, 4 or 5 seconds right now, tossing away the sunglasses or the clear lens glasses. They're already useless. They're already full of mud as our leaders come through the start line. There's a little bit of a gap back to Damasota and Gianni Vermeersch. And Michael Van Tornhout just chasing back on there, trying to get on terms, an experienced rider. And Quentin Herman's also coming through, followed by Jens Adams. And we'll take a look back to our leaders. It's a bit back into the lead. These guys are trading the lead. They seem to both want to ride the front. It's a lines are evolving. They lap in. They've seen the course. They haven't seen it for a minute since they did their pre-race reconnoiter of this.
Well, and a lot happens even after that first race. When you've got another 80 riders following in your footsteps, the course will change that quickly. Heading into the pit one more time, Eli Iserbyt, quick change. You can see the standing water in the pit splashing up as the riders get through there. Getting on a fresh bike. Toon Aerts looking really solid here. I like the way that Toon Aerts is getting into this race. You don't see him expending too much energy, but you also don't see him taking too many risks. So I think that is setting him up for a good race later on. Damasota, Gianni Vermeersch. Michael Van Tornhout choosing to stay out on course and not get a bike. So he was able to move right up alongside Vermeersch, moving up, putting himself in position to get around these two riders. Of course, whether or not his bike holds up is a different story.
Absolutely, and that pit line looks like it's a little more solid, a little less heavy to go through there. It might be the strategy to pit more often, so you get a ride on that little bit more firm ground every lap as we go back to the front. Eli Iserbyt flying across the side. You're going to see his foot out. There is no traction, Tim.
Well, barely anything out there. It's really important to have that tire pressure dialed. When we're talking about tire pressure, it's 15 PSI, it's 18 PSI. Even if you're a rider that weighs 160, 175 pounds, for someone like Lawrence Swake, you have such little pressure that your rims are actually touching different parts of the course, whether it's rocks or roots. You can see that root being exposed on the entrance of this short downhill. And it really is key to have that preparation dialed.
And this gap is really starting to develop for Eli Iserbyt and Toon Aerts. They're getting the separation. They're riding the smooth lines. They're both looking to lead. They're getting off their bikes quickly and running. They want to maintain this lead. They want to solidify this right now.
Iserbyt barely holding on into the pavement, almost sideways as he entered that paved section. He really let it hang on that descent and almost paid the ultimate price going into the barriers. But Toon Aerts not really able to make a big move on that. He wasn't able to capitalize. He also had a problem at the start of this run-up. So back and forth, every rider dealing with incredible difficulties. We'll see what happens with Iserbyt here, Johnny.
We'll take another look here. He jumps on the bike quickly. He just outriggers down this hill, and he just gets a really sideways, and he was really lucky to keep that upright.
Toon Aerts had expert advice on the side of the course from Sven Nys, just leaning over, watching these riders. He was out with his entire team, watching them hit these different off-camber sections, trying to figure out how to do it the best, but also figuring out how to do it the safest. You know, if you have a big crash like that, it'll really set you back, maybe even losing you the race.
And these riders are sliding all over. It's like ice capades out here, Tim, and you have to remind yourself that you're actually looking at the very best in the world here.
Wow, and really, you know, someone known for his bike handling skills, Tunertz. He is the rider known for whipping across the top of the flyover here last year on his way to the victory. A little bit different, you know, the speed has almost halved from what is a fast course. The last couple days of racing, including all the amateur races, you know, this race was a 6 or a 7 minute lap. Now it was 13 minutes in the women's race, and for the elite men out here, it's over 9 minutes, excuse me. But really tough start. Group of 3 looking like it's coming together a little bit, Johnny.
The groups are starting to form out here, Tim, and just to sort of go back to Tunertz leading with Eli Iserbyt. They have a nice little gap. Gianni Vermeersch with Donna Suta riding together. Michael Van Toorn has made it up to them, so that trio is the rest of the top 5. Quentin Herman's in 6th, Corne van Kessel, teammates, in 7th, Nicholas Klepp in 8th, Jens Adams in 9th, and Jim Aronowitz, our early leader, in 10th place right now. As look at this rut as it just gets deeper and deeper. There is no way out of this other than falling off your bike. The course management, as we saw in the women's race earlier, the course management, the minimizing mistakes just makes so much of a difference, and the experienced riders really were rising to the top as this is the very deep part of the course. It's the long ride up. To stay on your bike here is very key. They're just looking all over for traction at the front of the race as Tunertz moves back to the lead. Everybody's still fighting. These guys keep trading body blows right now.
That group of 3 coming around the corner. Still now they have this big climb up ahead of them, able to get into the beginning of it, still on their bikes, but 3rd place here, Vermeersch getting a little bit of a line on it. Lawrence Swake in 4th, Michael Van Toorn out, getting off the bike and running, choosing to try and save a little bit of energy. Excuse me, Dan Cirkler there in 4th place. Those 2 teammates riding with the Koreafin rider.
As we're back to the front here, and now it's Tunertz back to the lead. I can't even count how many times they've traded the lead here, but it seems to be on both of their minds to ride the clean line in front. These guys are starting to pull away a little bit here, Tim.
Iserbyt going on the inside. There's a little bit more grass in there. He's trying to square up in the corner. You know, line choice is really important. He set himself up for the next left-hand turn by getting wide on the beginning of that other turn. So Iserbyt looks like he's got really solid bike handling right now, really solid control. He's not overly nervous out there. He's letting the bike move out from underneath him. You know, having a big win in a World Cup so early in your career could set you up for something where you're not really able to lead a race and you kind of panic a little bit. Not for him. Really looking solid. Tunertz, small dab right there, losing a little bit of space. Looks like he's under pressure. You can tell just by the way that he's riding and even the color of his face. You know, when you look at someone and you see their neck so red, it looks like they're just putting everything they can in there. Back to the pit one more time. Iserbyt, his pit all the way at the end, is able to maintain speed and then exit into this corner onto that fresh grass section. Got the livestock watching along as the rest of the fans are taking in the best riders in the world here in Waterloo.
As they head down into the deep, dark woods, there's not a lot of sunshine out there. There's no sunshine. It gets dark in the woods. How does that affect a rider going in and out of there with how you see the line?
Well, it's funny, you know, what you would normally be wearing glasses for in a cross race, now with the mud coming up from the ground or the riders in front of you, you really have to get rid of them or continually try and wipe them. Problem there in the pit. Corne van Kessel grabbing his bike, immediately dropping. You can see just how much of a snowball effect that was because it affected the next 3 riders. You know, the mechanics count on the bike to leave them. You know, if it gets dropped right at their feet, the next mechanic who assumed that he was going to have a clear shot at his rider is now gone. You can see how it's just a pile up in there.
A lot of traffic in there, Tim. We're back to the front. Tunertz taking a quick look, and we'll look at this again one more time. It just looks like a slip of the bike, comes off the handlebars, the bike goes down. The rider has to go backwards and then look at the traffic coming in behind him.
Oh, and they're all teammates. That was Quentin Herman's Kleppa going, able to get through there, no problem. Lars van der Haar having a problem there just behind. But back to the leaders now, Johnny. You've got Tunertz in the front. And, you know, as we mentioned, thinking that he was going to have a hard time, now he's back to the front. You can see how these two are just swapping back and forth.
That was probably the biggest separation between these two all day since they got going. They had maybe 2 bike lengths, and then immediately Eli Ezerbeet is back up to the wheel. They're riding different lines, though, Tim. They're picking their own lines. It's almost a slow motion battle.
Get another look at this part of the course here. See what we've got. So these are those lines. I feel like one of the things that's difficult to show on camera are the ruts underneath the mud. So what they're doing is they're adjusting the course to give these riders a shot at having traction. While they do that, the riders over the last few days have ridden these lines in, and so those are actually in there. It's like riding into a puddle and not knowing if there's a pothole underneath. That's exactly how it is every single pedal stroke.
And we just saw both of our leaders jump to the barriers, and we're seeing some other riders further back with this replay, but both of our leaders
I think our camera's gone, Johnny.
They're falling mud. But both the leaders jumped the planks, and on the first lap, Ezerbeet did it. Both of them did it this time, and that's a feat of strength in that kind of deep mud.
It gets harder and harder as the footprints just before the barriers will actually get deeper, and you know, you're trying to bunny hop and you can't tell where the ground is because that mud is so thick. But 2 different lines for those riders setting up for this little downhill. Looks like that rut's starting to develop. This left-hand turn around the turn is one of the hardest parts in the course. Getting hung up, Ezerbeet grabbing his pedal on that wooden stake, so now he's got to make up this short little gap. Tuner's undoubtedly knows, heard the crowd, but Ezerbeet back on the bike. He is really confident in this part of the course, but that is going to bite him. Overly confident. Eli Ezerbeet, winner of last week's World Cup, now having to deal with that mistake. He chose to ride, Johnny.
He was pushing a little too hard. You see, Tony Ertz is doing a very conservative job. He's doing the smart thing. He knows it's early in the race. And this is what happens. One mistake begets another. Eli Ezerbeet panicked a little bit. He tried to go too hard to make that gap happen, bring it back out, and he ended up crashing himself. As you see, now we have a lone leader in Tony Ertz. He just took advantage of 2 quick mistakes in a row by Eli Ezerbeet.
And he's going to hit the gas. Now that he's got separation, he's going to want to keep piling that pressure on because he wants to try and force another mistake from Ezerbeet. Here we go, looking at it again. On his bike, choosing to ride, loses the front wheel and then into the barrier. But look at this, though. He has to adjust his handlebars because now they're crooked, and that will add to the delay that he has to face.
And here comes Tony Ertz into the U-turn, onto the start-finish stretch to complete this lap. And what an amazing turn of events. It was just 2 small mistakes, and look at, then he had to fix his bike, and look at the gap. Eli Ezerbeet isn't even on the finish straight now.
Really piling it on. 4 laps to go. It's an eternity out there on a course like this. Ezerbeet ruining his decision to ride that. You know, watching someone continue to run, you have to kind of trust in that rider. When it's Tony Ertz, former winner here, Belgian national champion, when he's running, you might want to think about running yourself. Instead, he kept on his bike and tried to make that corner.
And here comes Michael Thornout and Gianni Vermeersch around the corner to the finish straight. Donna Soto is just a few bike lengths back. This trio is battling for 3rd spot today. Quentin Hermans through in 6th, Corne van Kessel in 7th, Joris Milhausen coming through in 8th, Tom Musen in 9th, Jens Adams in 10th, Jim Ehrenhaus in 11th. And Jens Adams in 11th and Jim Ehrenhaus in 12th.
You know, I like to see Jens Nieuwenhuis there. Joris Nieuwenhuis in 8th position, Dutch rider. He had a tough race last weekend in Iowa, up in top 10 now. Tom Musen as well in 10th. These conditions really bring out a different type of rider. It's not just about fitness, how you prepared for the season, but it's also really about what your ingrained skills are. So a lot of riders are known for being mudders. They're known for having a little bit of an edge on a day like this. I think that what we're seeing here, Tony Ertz on the front, expert coaching by the legend himself, Sven Nys. he's a mudder. He's able to be comfortable in these conditions and just start ticking off the laps, and now he's in the lead.
And now, Tim, the story is, what is Eli Iserbyt going to do? How is he going to hit the reset button? How is he going to not panic and put it back together and start chipping away at that lead?
Well, he's definitely got the pace. You know, he's got the fitness with last week's win, but he's also got these skills. Now his confidence is shaken a little bit. You know, when you do it right a couple times, you don't really get bitten, and then when you do, it's really hard to make up for that. So that young rider, will see how he reacts.
And the weight of the World Cup leader's skin suit makes itself evident early today as we see Tony Aerts just making a small mistake. And there's just, you see that root coming through there. That tree has been exposed. It will almost knock your wheel right off it.
Well, Johnny, I wouldn't even call that a mistake. I'd call that just trying his best. There's a root that's being uncovered at the edge of that tree. I wonder if we can see whether or not Iserbyt gets through there clean. He's able to get off just before the root. When those get covered up with mud, you don't remember that they're there, or maybe they haven't been uncovered where you've been riding, but able to make it through, able to make up for that wild descent the last lap. Iserbyt back on the run-up.
He chose the high line on that last little quick descent down to the pavement. He took a different line that almost put him that almost put him on the ground. Here's where you look again at this little, yeah, not even a mistake, Tim. The wheel's going to go somewhere when it hits that root.
Yeah,
there.
I know. When you're riding the front wheel, trying to get traction, trying to get some steering, when there's a root like that, it basically jumps out of nowhere. You know, you're trying to look deep down into the trailer. You're trying to figure out where your next line is going to be. You know, you might overlook something like that. So Tony Aerts, small drop, you know, he's able to get right back up and move it again. It's not quite as costly as a riding mistake, which is what we saw out of Iserbyt.
And we have Tony Aerts with breathing room now. Now, does he change his style? Does he go back to racing just versus the course here?
Well, I think he's really going to have this lap where he's trying to build a gap. You know, he knows that he's got Iserbyt on his back foot. He's a little shaken. He's going to want to put in a really fast lap.
And another mistake.
That would be one of those situations where he's trying to push, and he's not able to do so. We've got a little bit of a situation here, Johnny, where the course has a maximum speed, and he's not really able to continue any faster than that. So Iserbyt looking at this as an opportunity to stay closer to Tony Aerts.
We'll look at this again here as Aerts makes a simple mistake. It's an uphill. It's a running section, and his foot just slips off. That log is so slippery right now.
And I don't think that feels very good. So if you have just hit your shin on a log like that, it's really going to start bothering you. It's going to start pulsating. You know, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to feel that for the next few laps. You know, you probably won't notice it, you know, really until you go to bed at night, but that's really going to start to hurt pretty bad later.
It is going to have a nice goose egg on that later on this evening as we're looking at Iserbyt just trying to get back on track. He made a couple of mistakes. Everyone's making mistakes at E10. It's what you can do with the mistakes. As we're looking back to our leader, Tony Aerts, he's got the clear track. He's got a little bit of a gap. He can do what he wants. He's looking for different lines right now. He's searching for traction on this big climb on the back of the course.
And really making it look easy there, going around that corner into this long uphill. See how long he stays on the bike. If he decides to get up and run, looks like he's going to continue on the bike. A little bit of a slide. It's a funny section. It's basically off camera. The camera doesn't show exactly how much, but it's tough, and you can see just how hard that section is. But here comes a rocket ship. Eli Iserbyt really ripping up this climb. So he's definitely pushing, trying to get back up to the front.
Yeah, he really brought the pace up there, and he is really, really very strong right now. We saw last week, you can't count him out, but this race is just battling the course. There's so much out here. And Tim, what kind of focus does it take on a course that's so tricky like this, mentally?
It really has to be something where you're only in the moment. You're not necessarily thinking about your last mistake, but you're just thinking about getting around this corner, this rut, this you know, last time through they had a mud hole. But you know what is happening when you're able to race against someone, as we see with Vermeersch and Van Torenhout. These guys are pushing the pace together, and it really does carry you a little bit. It's not so lonely out there where you're just trying to pick your way around.
Yeah, and Dan Sota just in between the groups, and here comes the next group, a couple of Telenet Balois riders, and your season riders choosing to run this climb. We rode up it yesterday, Tim. It is not as flat as it looks on television.
No, not easy at all. Nieuwenhuis hopping back on the bike, going back to the front. There's Tony Aerts as Belgian national champ, cruising around. Belgium known for giving riders a chance to ride in deep, deep mud, and it's one of those things where, Johnny, you and I both have ridden races where you're on a very flat course, yet you have to run half of it. I mean, these riders are absolutely used to hammering through a ton of power just trying to go forward.
And we see Tony Aerts getting a fresh bike, and look at the paint job, that Belgian National Championship paint job on that bike. That is sharp, and it's not going to be that clean for very long here. And we see Tony Aerts come through. He has a nice little lead. He has a chance to solidify his lead. He has a chance to ride the pace he wants. And we see Ezerbeet have a little stumble getting back on the bike. Johnny Vermeesch is in third. Michael Van Thornhout is in fourth. Donna Sorta is in fifth. Corner Van Kessel has moved up to sixth. Quentin Harriman's in seventh. Joris Nordhaus in eighth place. Nicholas Klepp ninth. Tom Mewson in 10th.
A lot of tension every single corner. You're just kind of trying to pick your way around, and down on the ground, there goes Tony Aerts. The tension is just so thick because it doesn't even have to be a big input that causes you to hit the ground. It is just a slight turn of the bar, a slight slip of the front wheel, and all of a sudden you find yourself on the ground. Even when you're leading a World Cup, that's Tony Aerts hitting the deck. Same corner. There goes Ezerbeet. He makes it through clean. Makes up a little bit of time. You can see him in the back of the shot here. Tony Aerts
still with quick feet. And he's moving them over. We saw this in the women's race. The pace of the runners when they were going fast is moving. It's taking those smaller steps, Tim, and keeping and not loading up your legs. They're trying to take those big strides.
Ezerbeet, he looks like he's charging. Every single time we see him in an image, in video here, he's really moving. He's really pushing everything he's got, whether he's pedaling or running. He's really trying to get back up to the front.
And it's super clear that Tony Aerts does not want Eli Ezerbeet back up with him, but is he pushing too hard? And we're seeing a couple mistakes in the last lap that he did from pushing the pace.
And they really add up for sure. I mean, we're talking about an hour-long race. We're looking at 6 laps. Not a ton of opportunity out there, but you know, taken in combination, every single one of these small uphills, slippery corners, everything, you can build a big gap. But so far, Tony Aerts not able to do that over Ezerbeet.
And Ezerbeet made 2 mistakes very quickly, had a small problem with his bike, but he got him out of the way all at once. And it seems like he has reined it back in. He's riding his lines with confidence. He's not trying anything to do. His pace is very good, and Tony Aerts is still trying to make this gap stick right now. And he jumps the planks.
And Aerts started last year so hot. You know, he wins the first 2 World Cups here in the United States. Goes on, kind of has a quieter period in the middle of the season before he comes back and wins Belgian Nationals over Wout van Aert. But right now, Tony Aerts, I think he's pretty content being in the front here because he wasn't necessarily a big part of the show last week when Ezerbeet just ran away with this race. So this is Tony Aerts back in this section, coming up to the small off-camber, riding alone on the front, trying to find that traction. Very different lines from what we saw in the beginning part of the race, and really the overall speed until you look at Eli Ezerbeet.
Ezerbeet is bringing a very good point, Tim. And remember, Tony Aerts is the defending champion of this race. This is also the race on the grounds of his bike sponsors company. This is a big deal for him and his team. As we're seeing him, he chooses to run. He's being conservative in this section. This is where Ezerbeet made the big mistake and the 2 big mistakes in a row. As we see Ezerbeet riding that's the same place where he made the mistake. Ezerbeet really wants to ride this, Tim.
Well, he's sure that he's gaining time. He's sure that he's not running, so maybe he's trying to avoid that running. But right there, that's a real choice that he's making, and it's a big risk. Obviously, paying off that turn. We'll see what happens next lap through, but Tony Aerts, he can tell that there he is. He looks over his shoulder, sees a little bit of Ezerbeet. He sees the white jersey.
And here's the race for third, and Thornhout and Vermeesch just towing his bike along behind him. It's so slippery there. It's off camber, holding onto it. There's ribbon there, not a hard fence. It's hard to hold on to that.
Yeah, we're going to see this course burned into the grounds around the Trek factory here for a long time to come, but Tony Aerts coming down off this flyover, taking a breath. One of the only easy places on this course, a short section of pavement before you make your way onto the finish straight. So he's really taking advantage of that. Now he's going to start picking it back up again.
He's going to look and he's going to see what's happening. It looks like Ezerbeet is making a little bit of inroads. Obviously, this time last lap, he had just had 2 mistakes. He had to adjust his bike. He's got the pace, and we're halfway through this race right now, Tim.
Ezerbeet Iserbyt picking it back up to speed, looking pretty solid out there, not showing too much impact from those earlier crashes, but Iserbyt maintaining his gap in second position.
So Tim, on these long, this start-finish straight, it's one of the only bits of pavement on the entire course. Do you use the fast pavement to try to solidify your lead, or do you use it to try to just get the legs back and get a little rest in your legs?
Well, that's one of the biggest lessons you get from racing against the best in the world, is that they hit the hardest parts hard, and then the easier parts, they take it easy. So Toon Aerts taking it easy through the start-finish, now putting the pace back in. Iserbyt, it looked like he was cruising across the finish line. He is hammering right now, trying to bring that gap back, and it looks like he's doing so.
Iserbyt has maintained his pace, and here we're checking out Michael Vantorno coming through, followed by Johnny Vermeesch, and having to make the effort as he goes down the pavement to try to get back to Vantorno. As we see, Aerts comes through, clean bike, Iserbyt comes through. He's bringing this gap back, Tim.
Oh, for sure. Look at Iserbyt really charging right now out of the pit, fresh bike once again inside of 5 seconds to Toon Aerts. He is trying to get back up there, and he's got a great shot.
Here we see Nunhaus come through, and the rest of the pack, Quentin Hermans and Dana Sota in there. These guys are just fighting. You can see they're using a little bit of rest here, and they're so heavy on this course. And look at this. This gap is disappearing, Tim.
Gone right now. Iserbyt catching the tail end of Toon Aerts over the flyover. Toon Aerts looking like he's really struggling with the pace, really paying the price for those last couple laps, trying to fight off the young Eli Iserbyt. Back onto the off-camber, two very different lines. You see fighting for traction up high, Eli Iserbyt, bike moving all over the place. Toon Aerts going low. Iserbyt trying to hold on. Wow. Toon Aerts off the bike, and there goes Iserbyt right into the lead of the World Cup, staying on his bike, riding a line that no one's ridden so far today, showing the class that he's got on that bike.
We're going to look at this again. Iserbyt has not ridden this line all day, but he has the confidence. He's made mistakes, and he's still choosing to pick and choose new lines. He's going for it. He wants to be back in the lead of this race, and he is now.
No, he found traction where no one else could whatsoever. He looked so solid in a rut that didn't even exist. Taking that high line, Iserbyt now back in control. We'll see if he's truly in charge. And both riders having a problem with that route, but Toon Aerts going all the way over, up and off on the left-hand side of the bike. Back on for this descent. This is going to be a big test here. Here comes Iserbyt back onto the pavement. All right, full two-wheel drift for Toon Aerts in second place. So much mud has come off that wall. Now it's on the pavement. It's even sketchier than it is on the hill itself.
Now, on the first lap, Iserbyt took a different line on that downhill, and he almost crashed. He's changed it up, and then you saw Toon Aerts following his line. He's learning from the young riders that this guy's picking great lines. I'm going to take advantage of it. You see, Iserbyt makes a little mistake. He dabs in the corner. There's so many ruts that are all over the place. There's so many riders that are cutting in different lines. And now, for Toon Aerts, he's got to hit the reset button. He was enjoying a comfortable lead, and now he has to figure out what he's going to do about this young rider.
Well, I think it's really benefiting Toon Aerts to watch Iserbyt because he's able to pick up a little bit. It seems like he's actually riding better now that he has Iserbyt in front of him because he can see where he's going and why. He's not able to follow him directly. Still got him at a little bit of a distance, but I think it's helping him choose a little bit of a different line than what he was used to before when he was off the front by himself.
And for the Americans at home, Stephen Hyde is in 21st place right now. Sometimes we get messages, people asking us where some of the local or the American riders are in these races. As we look here at Iserbyt, now back in the lead. As we come to these stairs, this is where Toon Aerts made a mistake last lap. He slipped, he smashed his ankle or his shin into this log. He took a close look at it as he goes up there this time. He did not want to repeat that, Tim.
No, nice and solid there, able to get on and off, back up that short hill. You know, this course is so fun to ride when conditions are fast and easy and there's traction, downright treacherous in conditions like this. Iserbyt trying to stay in that rut, trying to stay up high. If he's going to fall, he wants to fall into the hill, not down the hill. Toon Aerts really going fast on that section. He made a good amount of time right there. So Toon Aerts getting an insight as to what that rut is going to do by watching Iserbyt able to pick up a little bit of pace.
And we are being treated to an absolute slugfest between the defending champion of this race, the defending World Cup champion, and the standout young star of this year, Eli Iserbyt, who won the first round 1 week ago in Iowa City. And what a treat for everyone at home. This course has never been run in the rain before. We've never had mud at this race. You see Ezerbeek just kicking his way through the woods. He's got a couple bike lengths right there. He's continuing to pick bold lines. And we see Tune Aerts has a problem. He goes into the fence. He has to get off on the wrong side of his bike. And this is what we're talking about.
Third place here, trying to make his way up as Dan Serta. Running ragged a little bit here with Tune Aerts. Looks like he's really paying the price. You can just see the energy levels are starting to drop. We're 4 laps into this race. He is suffering right now. Looking back over his shoulder, never a good sign, especially when you've got so much racing in front of you and you're watching this rider run away.
And we'll take another look at this mistake. Ezerbeek takes fence. Tune tries to follow his line. He gets off it. You see his body weight goes to the outside, to the downhill side, and that's exactly what you said on the previous off-camera with the rut. If you get your weight to the outside of the rut, bad things are going to happen.
It's impossible to come back from that because you're just following gravity. Tune Aerts doing a good job of not getting caught up in that banner.
And now a mistake from Ezerbeek as he comes off.
One after another. These riders are out there struggling on this stuff. It is so difficult. The best riders in the world on and off the bike, on and off the ground.
Wow, and you saw how quickly he remounted. It seems like an eternity when you're the rider out there in the race, Tim, but that cost him seconds. And Tune Aerts comes around. He just carves back into that lead a little bit.
And you really can't beat yourself up. So what happens here with Ezerbeek, he hits the ground up against the barrier. He tries to save it, unable to do that. But he immediately gets back up, very calmly back on, even fixing the side of the bike that he's going to get back up and on. Able to leap right back up there, not panicking and not beating himself up because he needs to get a fast lap. He needs to keep going forward and not think about those mistakes.
He just made a big move, and he knows that he doesn't want to let Tune Aerts back up to him here, Tim. And he is continuing to drive a very nice line. He's a young rider, but he's riding with a calmness. He had just a disastrous 20 seconds on the first lap where it looked like he was just throwing everything away. As we watch Ezerbeek come in for a clean bike, his competitor there, Tune Aerts hasn't even come into the pit yet. He's got a little bit of time here.
And he's known for being so passionate. I mean, you would call a young rider like that kind of leaping up through the ranks to to have a bit of a hothead who's like, yelling at his pit crew. He's trying to get everything he can out of it. I see a change in him this year. He's got this extra maturity, world champion in under 23. Looks like he's really trying to get his first big weekend of World Cup racing under his belt. He's got the win last weekend. Hopefully another win this week. Heading back to Belgium as a new star in a sport, missing 2 of the biggest names in Mathieu Van der Poel and Wout van Aert.
Well, you can't ask for a much better story than that to start the year as we go back to the front. And the rain is starting to pick up again here in Waterloo as we see Michael Venturno getting a fresh bike, Johnny Vermeersch getting a fresh bike. Both of these riders actually take their bikes on the other side that the people just do. As we look here at Ezerbeek, look at the quick feet. He knows he has the lead. He wants to make this thing stick. He came back from a pretty big gap, as you see a lapped rider walking through here, and then you see the foot speed of Tune Aerts is not quite the same as Ezerbeek.
Yeah, you really see the difference from the top of the sport to the middle here. We have running that rider down, Tune Aerts. Looking at lap times here, Johnny. Fastest lap of the day is #1. Every single lap since is going up in time. It is getting slower and slower, harder and harder. Maybe this rain will lighten things up and speed it up a little bit, but right now there's riders more and more mistakes every single lap.
It's just really telling this course is so heavy, there's nowhere to rest. And Ezerbeek is still holding his pace. His leg speed is good, his cadence is good.
Doing well getting up and over that barrier. Up and over that flyover. It seems like a barrier would be that big and standing in front of you, you can barely make it up and over, but really challenging part. It's this deep mud, and especially in this section, takes so much power just to keep moving. You can see that he put his hands on the tops of the handlebars just to kind of simplify. All he has to do at that point is pedal. There's no braking, there's no shifting. You just hammer, you just get everything you can out of your body.
And we see Ezerbeek take a quick head check there. He jumped the barriers. It's almost in slow motion. This mud is so heavy there, and he takes a quick head check, but he's out of sight. He knows that Tune Aerts can't see him. The guy in second place can't see him. As we see Tune Aerts get sideways and almost run into our camera there.
Once again, that poor GoPro is getting beat up out there. But Tune Aerts, he's trying to make these moves. He's trying to take the turns. He's trying to hit the ruts. He's trying to do all of these, and he's just not able to do it. He's just a little bit off of his game, and that gap is starting to grow with Iserbyt, who really looks like he's solid out there, totally comfortable in these conditions.
And we'll see, this is the section of the course where he made a mistake the first lap that cost him a lot of time, as he chooses to try to ride that corner again that did put him on the ground on the first lap.
Let's see if that rut's still there. Double wheel slide into the rut, maintains all the way down into the tape. He hops off just before he's forced into the tape, but good ride by Iserbyt, very fast. Let's see what happens here with running. 17 seconds is the gap to Toon Aerts here. Toon Aerts not choosing to get on the bike. He's going to run all the way down. I do feel like Iserbyt is gaining time on Toon Aerts every single time he tries to ride. So far, he's able to do it trouble-free since that big crash earlier in the race.
It's very telling that to make these big mistakes early and ride so unafraid afterwards, and still not be afraid to ride a line that he knows is fast, and not be afraid to try a new line. No fear came from that as we watch this again.
Yeah, Toon Aerts going for the bunny hop. When he lands the second barrier, he's just a little bit off balance, and you really have a hard time turning the wheel at that point because it's sliding. So he's just able to kind of curve it out. We call it looping out, and he's able to save it from a real crash, but at the very least, it scared him a little bit.
And we see Eli Iserbyt coming down to the U-turn. He'll be coming on to the start-finish straight here. He's got a little bit of gap in hand. He's probably going to take a quick look over to see where Toon Aerts is. Toon Aerts is on top of the flyover right now. You see that slight turn of his head. He is looking. He knows where second place is, and he's got a nice gap in hand right now.
This part of the course is just an out and back, so he'll see exactly how Toon Aerts goes up and over the final flyover. But that gap now is going to be upwards of 20 seconds. Toon Aerts, again, looking like he's laboring a little bit. He's trying to move, get a little bit of pace back on the pavement, but sitting just at 20 seconds. Looks like he is watching Iserbyt continue to pile on a little bit of time as he rides away.
And these two riders, Tim, have opened up a very substantial gap over the rest of the groups out there on the course. As you see Iserbyt just plowing, but you see that very liquid mud in the middle of the course. How does it work when that mud gets beat down? Is that more shiny mud? Is that a better line to take? Is it easier to ride from, Tim?
Well, sometimes when it's raining like this, you know, we've had rain in the morning. It really thickened up as it started to dry out. Lap time started to rise. Now that it's raining, it's going to get a little bit faster. Those muddy sections that are wet are actually going to be faster than the sections that are dry. So you'll see riders really starting to hit the puddles on purpose just to clean their bikes up a little bit and gain speed.
And we just saw the turnout and Vermeer's come through the start-finish line, and look at the time gaps. Tim, back to third place is 1:09 seconds back.
Yeah, totally different ball game out there for the third and fourth place riders. Iserbyt back down the flyover, foot out, trying to get some traction. He's going to try and stay high again. He's one of the only riders riding that line. He's off on his way to the very tough off-camber section as we see the Telenet Valois squad, Quinn Ehrmans, Corne van Kessel, and Nicholas Kleppa coming across the line. Joris Nieuwenhuis here, the Dutch rider from Sunweb, in 8th position, maintaining for him.
And he just slipped a little bit off that group, Tim. He was actually really in the mix there, and he just has there's a little bit of a gap for him to keep up if we go back to the front of the race here. See, Eli Iserbyt is riding those roots. They're painted orange there, the ones that were exposed. They're getting more exposed every lap. Every one of these side hills, there's rocks and roots that are coming up through the ground. Sometimes
when you're trying to get into a rut, it's better to slow down a little bit and then hit the rut correctly instead of trying to go too fast. See, he gets a little bit wild there. I think that's one of the sections that has almost no clear line. You know, things are still, anything goes. He pays the price a little bit, straight into the wood post, sideways at the beginning of the downhill, straightens out in time for the pavement. Now heading back up into the uphill. Really great bike handling skills. Double wheel slides are not easy. Leave that for the experts, people.
He is just dancing on that thing, balancing on a razor edge. We're going to look at this again as he just gets into the fence there. It's that downhill side again. He got the weight wrong, Tim.
Yeah, it's really tough to maintain that, but expert showing here at the front. Iserbyt in second. You can see how he puts his body first to go straight down. You know, they call it a fall line for a purpose, for a reason. He's almost hitting the deck every time he goes down that thing, but he stays in control. This big, tough run-up. You know, this is such a steep run-up. Some of the riders able to ride it earlier in the week when it was dry, not now. Barely able to walk up those stairs.
And Tim, as Telenet came down there on the pavement, it looked like his tires were pretty much flat. You could see him. There was no pressure in those, are there?
No, so one of the big things with cyclocross is tire pressure selection. A lot of riders go back and forth when conditions are changing. Here, it's pretty simple. You need to go as low as you possibly can, and you need to avoid hitting the rocks and the rooster out on course. A rider like Eli Iserbyt, I would guess that he's probably riding 15 PSI, maybe 18. He's a smaller rider, smaller in stature. Someone like Toon Aerts might be riding upwards of 20 PSI, depending on the tire tread. So very important to pick the right one and run with it. See if you can get a little bit of an advantage.
And here we see Eli Iserbyt coming through, just trying to keep the bike moving. It's so heavy. He's in his drops here, Tim. He's getting his weight as low as possible and trying to keep that front wheel weighted and stuck to the ground.
See him coming around the corner. He's in that rut again. He hops off a little bit early. Looks like he might have lost a little bit of control. But that one rut, if you get out of that, you are in deep, deep trouble.
And that rut is getting deeper every lap, Tim, as we see Eli quickly to shoulder the bike. He's keeping his feet moving quickly. He's trying to solidify this gap back to Toon Aerts.
Just as a point of perspective, this last lap was 35 seconds slower than the first lap of this race. So the course is changing that much. You can add 30 seconds even for the leader. For the riders in the middle and the back of the race, it's going to be a minute, minute and a half, even 2 minutes difference from your fastest to this last lap.
And you saw right there, as Eli Iserbyt came down, the course was doubled back on itself. He was able to see Toon Aerts going up that hill. He's keeping an eye. If you don't think he's keeping an eye exactly where Toon Aerts is every time this course doubles back, Tim, he's absolutely watching where second place is right now.
Cleaning that uphill section, looking solid on the bike. He's able to keep his momentum forward. He's not losing too much in terms of rear tire, excuse me, sliding in that mud. Really strong climb for him. Back off the bike, running alongside Toon Aerts, trying to set up for that same climb. See if he's able to get a clean run at it. He had a problem the last lap. See him trying to get some traction, sliding all over the place, uphill even, still getting your bike sideways. That is how much power he's putting out and how little traction there is.
And Tim, last lap, that climb is where we saw Toon Aerts kind of just run out of gas a little bit, and that's where the gap was really solidified. And we didn't really get a good look at it there where his body language was, but it seems like Eli Iserbyt is still riding at such a pace right now.
Well, actually, I would think that he looked pretty good that last time. You know, he was able to keep a little bit of momentum going. It looked like he had good cadence. You know, he was able to charge that climb as opposed to the last time, which he barely survived it.
Right, everyone's in course management mode, everyone's in energy management mode. There is nowhere to rest on this course right now, Tim. It is absolutely rider versus course, and more than rider versus rider out here. You've seen Eli Iserbyt still sliding through these corners. He's probably going to look for a clean bike here pretty quickly, as he needs to keep this gap growing. We're still on Eli Iserbyt here. We're trying to get a gap back to where Toon Aerts is. He's signaling something to his picture. He wants a clean bike. There it is. Fresh, clean, no mistakes. Out back onto the course. Fresh bike right there.
You know, sometimes you'll have a rider actually yell out, I want more pressure or less pressure. I might have had a crash on another part of the course. You want to tell your pit crew that I crashed. The left shifters twisted in, you know, something that'll give them a chance to fix the problem, so when you get the bike the next lap through, when it's fresh and clean, that problem is fixed.
And that goes to the communication between these riders and the mechanics. Tim, during your career, you worked with pretty much the same mechanic the entire time.
Well, if you're lucky, you do. You know, you have a really intense sport. You know, it takes so much out of what you're doing, training, preparation, whatever it is. When you have a good support crew around you, it really does matter. Eli Iserbyt, as his career is exploding, as he's winning world championship titles, winning World Cups, he's going to want to keep as much of that together as possible. A lot of what you see at the top level of the sport, especially in Belgium, is that family dynamic and the family crew that are out there every single weekend, wherever you are, trying to get that bike perfect for you to race your very best.
Absolutely. we're seeing Elizabeth not being afraid to jump off his bike. He's making good decisions. Early in the race, he was trying to ride as much as he can. He's figured out where that's not working out. He's quickly off his bike. He's maintaining his momentum right now as he's holding about 39 seconds in hand.
And the reason why this is so special is that the other riders don't know this. The other riders are not watching this TV show. They're not watching this program of a rider like Elizabeth figuring this out. Everyone is trying to figure it out. Everyone is trying to do their very best. Unfortunately, not everyone can see that Elizabeth decided to run a particular section. So they don't even know how he's doing this, but yet he's adding time. He's putting it in there. Somebody has to set the pace, and right now that is Elizabeth absolutely crushing this field and building this gap over Toon Aerts in second.
He takes a quick look over his shoulders as he crests that flyover that's probably starting to feel like a mountain right now as these legs get heavier as we go through here. He's still holding gap. He's trying to keep a look as we look here at Toon Aerts. You see the shoulders, Tim. You see his head's dropped a little bit. It's the body language. What is he telling you right now?
Well, I think he had a second wind where he was really feeling more comfortable out there, and now it's gone again. You know, it started to leave him one more time. This is really the tough part of the race where, you know, the excitement of the start is over, the middle part of the race where, you know, you're figuring out what's happening with the course. Now it's all about just chopping that wood and making sure that you've got what you need, whether your bike is working, whether your legs are working. This is kind of a lonely part of the race. The finish line isn't here yet. You can't quite feel like you're almost there. You're just suffering so bad.
And here we're looking at Vermeersch, who's moved back into third ahead of Michael Van Tornout. These riders have ridden together since they were junior riders. They're actually really comfortable with each other. They know each other's riding styles very well, and just working together, if they can at all, to fight for that final podium spot. And we see Elizabeth off the bike, quickly running across hill. He's keeping his feet moving very, very fast. He's remounting for this part.
And he's going to go around this rut. He's going to stick in the rut on the start of the corner, but undoubtedly you fall out of it. So it looks like, you know, as we talk about these ruts, it's almost like a berm on a BMX track where you can just ride up along the banking. But when that banking disappears, you have nothing behind it. There's nowhere to put your tire. You have no traction at all. He's smart enough to watch that disappear, get off his bike, start running immediately, not ride it into the fence.
And that's a section that we just saw that Toon Aerts is running in its entirety. And that was the same section where Ellie made the big mistake on the first lap, and he still continued to ride a line that he believes is faster. So we watched Toon Aerts simply dismounting and deciding to run this entire section.
Pick up some kind of cue, what's happening. You can even see the footprints of the rider behind you, in front of you. You know, he's thinking about what Iserby did, but he's trying to figure it out for himself. He knows that the gap is growing. Iserby is disappearing off into the distance. Iserby down the flyover. One last second here to take a breath, and before he gets back into the start-finish to start his last lap.
Absolutely, he turns around the corner here. He's gonna look, you can see his eyes, they dart up to his left. He's looking at the flyover, he's focused on the flyover. He's like, where is Toon Aerts? Where is he at? He's got the bell lap. We're on our final lap now, Tim. As we watch Vermeersch and Van Tornout come through this off-camera session, Vermeersch remounts. Van Tornout shoulders the bike as Vermeersch has to re-dismount. They're just trying to figure this out, and they haven't figured it out like Ellie Iserbyt has, but these guys are sticking together. But at some point, this cooperation, Tim, is going to end because there's a podium spot for a World Cup on the line here.
No, there's a lot at stake for those two riders. Vermeersch a little bit more in control now that he starts going uphill. I think that he made a bad choice with his toe spikes, having almost no traction on the downhill, and really lucky to stay in front of Van Tornout. It looked pretty comfortable there. If you're with another rider and you know that you've got them beat in a certain section, as you go into the final lap, you might want to save that move and make a big attack so you can actually get that podium spot.
And here we see Toon Aerts coming through, getting the bell last lap. He can't even see Ellie Iserbyt right now. And Ellie Iserbyt, fresh bike, back out on the course. He's got 53 seconds in hand. You know he's getting this information from his crew in the pit, and you can see the intensity which he is still riding with. He knows that he has a World Cup that is his to lose right now, Tim.
One of the few sections of the course you can put power down consistently without worrying about crashing. There's Iserbyt trying to pile onto that lead, up and over the flyover, showing just how tough this is. You're running, you're riding, you're barely able to see, you've got mud in your eyes. such a tough day to be out there at the front. Vermeesch leading Van Toorn out across the finish line. 1 lap to go.
And here we go back to our leader as he just dances across this hillside. You cannot put a single thing wrong, and you see him, he goes back down, he makes a mistake. He gets off the line that worked so well from the line that put him into the lead of this race earlier. He was looking for it, he was trying to get it. The bike did not cooperate with him there.
Just a couple inches off your line and you pay the price. Luckily able to get off the bike and not hit the ground. Iserbyt making his way through, diving back into this off-camber section. See what he does on this one. He's going to try and stay high. Get a couple pedal strokes in. Generally just skateboarding, pushing alongside, but we'll see what happens with this route here.
Momentum is the name of the game right now. He's quick to get off the bike. He's not wanting this bike to come to a stop. He's had problems on this section right here. He says, I'm just going to jump off. I'm going to run through it. I'm going to get back on and keep this bike moving. I have a lead right now. As we see, this is the descent that almost crashed him early in the race. He gets that high line again. He's sweating it out. Just tippy-toeing through this slippery corner. We see Vermeesch and Van Toorn out. Vermeesch is starting to push on a little bit of pressure here, Tim. He's starting to probe where Michael's weaknesses are. He wants that spot on the podium. He missed the podium. He got 4th last weekend in a bike throw.
Really tough finish for him. He was able to win the race the following day. Definitely not like being on a Podium World Cup, though. So he's going to be trying to push the pace there as we see Iserbyt just inching his way around. He's got a solid lead. When you've got almost a minute in hand, you can definitely relax a little bit, but sometimes you don't really hit those sections as sharply as you want to. You might even have a mistake with a big lead like that when you don't have the pressure of the rider behind you.
Well, I think at this level, and you're winning a race this big, there's no lead that's big enough, Tim. It's always more, and he's looks like he's really switched into conservative mode, into not make mistake mode right now.
Cruising around there, 1 foot out. See the pressure that he's under, just the facial expression, just trying to get clipped in as soon as he can, up and around these corners. These running sections, they kind of get simplified. You know, there's no line to pick. All you have to do is get off the bike safely, put it on your shoulder, or carry it, and then get back on whenever you can. But it's every single time you hit these sections, it's just so hard. No one understands how much your heart rate is just beating through your chest into your brain. You know, you're breathing so hard. Cyclocross, one of the hardest disciplines we have in cycling.
And we just saw Toon here looking for traction. He's basically riding with his shoulder in the trees. We got Iserbyt gets off the rut. This is what we talked about, Tim. He got his weight out. He had to eject from that bike to keep from crashing all the way down underneath that. And we will probably get another look at that one.
Oh, he definitely pulled the ejection handle there. As he pops out of the right, you can see his body is a little bit downhill. Instead of crashing, he hops up and over the saddle. Gymnastics on a bike. He's able to get a little bit of traction, keep running, keep moving forward. Huge save there. That is not a mistake. That is definitely a save. Great job for Eli Iserbyt as he rides in the front.
Fantastic bit right now. Here comes Tony to those stairs that bit him earlier, and you can just see, Tim, the legs are just moving a little slower right now.
Let's see what his gap is to 3rd place there as Toon Aerts trying to keep moving forward. Iserbyt hitting this climb for the last time, putting the pace down. Look at this, back up around those roots. Sun coming out here in Waterloo, just in that section of the course, brighten things up just a little bit. Iserbyt pushing so hard up and over that climb. Toon Aerts trying to get to the same section, able to ride that, stay in the rut the whole time. A little bit slower, it looks like, but Toon Aerts able to make that section work for him.
Well, he rode it very cleanly, and it would have been great for him to take advantage of Iserbyt's mistake, but Iserbyt just did that gymnastic move off the bike and kept running. He didn't really lose a lot of time as the rain is starting to really come down here in Waterloo. We're looking at Toon Aerts, Eli Iserbyt at the front, managing the course, looking for the rut, just trying to get through this last lap.
Look at all the mud stuck in the bottom of his shoes. Here comes Dan Sota here, Michael Van Toorn out in 3rd, able to ditch Gianni Vermeesch. So we'll see what happens with Gianni here on the rutted section. He's able to ride it okay. Comes to almost a complete stop, though, at the end of that rut. So not as smooth as it could have been. Van Toorn out looks like he's getting a little bit of run on Vermeesch in 3rd.
And, you know, finishing one spot off the podium 2 weeks in a row at big races. Although he's got great form right now, he's got to be a bitter pill for Vermeersch to swallow. As we're looking back here at Elizabeth, just getting through this, he is counting down the turns to claim his second in a row World Cup victory, a breakout rider this year, and he's still keeping his momentum. He's keeping the pace. He knows he's got a big gap in hand. It's never enough when you're in this situation.
Back through the pits here in a second. Get on a fresh bike one more time. Have a chat with his pit crew, see if he can update or get an update. They're going to know what else is happening in the rest of the course. Toon Aerts looks like he's having a bike problem. Looks like he's got some mud on his left side, excuse me, his right side. He might have had a crash here, but definitely having trouble getting in and out of his pedals. You can see him putting a lot of pressure trying to clip that foot in.
I couldn't tell if that was a drivetrain problem or a clip-in problem, but it was definitely not pedaling steadily. As we're back to Ezerbeet plowing through the mud here. He can almost taste this victory now, Tim. He's remembering these sections. He's counting down. He's like, don't make a mistake, LA. Get through this. Keep your momentum. He's just committing to the rut. He's riding to the right. You see that tree root almost upset him right there. They're all becoming exposed right now.
And those are just the tree roots we can see here from our camera angles. You know that there are more spreading out from around each of those trees. Is Reed able to make it around? This is a section where they have to get off and run. Going past the secret bar, in business all weekend long. Every fan who's come out to watch here in Waterloo definitely stopping in there to say hello. But Ezerbeet running by for the final time on his way to a World Cup victory.
Not a time to stop for a beer for this young man as he is getting very close. He's about a half lap, I think, from the finish here, Tim, and he's got a very nice gap in hand. It's over a minute now. He's just managing these downhills. He's sticking the foot out. He's outrooted. He's paddling the bike, like he's skateboarding the bike along. Like Tim said, it's just getting through. He just wants to get this finished. This last part is taking forever for him.
Oh, and as the rain continues to fall a little bit, I took a look back at the lap times, and it's almost as if it's matching the rain perfectly. Lap times are getting faster the more it rains. That last lap, 10 seconds faster than one previously. Eli Ezerbeet, even though he's on the final lap with a big gap, I bet this is going to be a fast one as he pushes through that wet mud now. He's got more traction to work with, more speed to work with, but yet he is just giving it everything he's got up and over that flyover for the last time.
And we saw how he labored over that flyover, and we'll take a look back and we'll see how Toon Aerts goes over that flyover here in about a minute. He's shouldering the bike quickly. He's trying to keep it going. He's got a decent gap over third place, so he's not panicking. It looks like Vermeersch has moved back into third possibly from what we're seeing, but we'll have to verify that as Eli Ezerbeet cleans the barriers. He's got to ride up here, just a little bit of a climb, as he's looking for that green grass on the outside. He's looking for traction. He's looking for the lighter part of the course, Tim.
Appreciative fans giving Eli Ezerbeet the due that he deserves. Second big win here in the United States if he's able to make it to the finish intact. Going around this off-camera section, the rain coming down. You can just see the mud building and building. It's going to be easier to ride on, but it's just going to start getting in your eyes even more. But really difficult trying to find a little bit of traction for Ezerbeet. He's done such an amazing job throughout the day. One last test as he drops down in towards Factory Hill.
And these are just such tricky sections. These ruts are so burned in. They're getting deeper, but they're getting parts of the course are getting blown out. It's evolving as we go. And Ezerbeet's just managing it as best he can. And now he's riding he's taking a more conservative look here. This is the part of the course he's been riding. He ran a little further before he jumped back on his bike. This is the exact corner that almost undid his entire race on lap one. He's unafraid. He knows it's faster. He goes back in there. Both those wheels, Tim, they were both moving down that hill.
And he hops off cleanly. Really smart to pop off as he did. Looking like he did not lose a step on that descent. Solid move. You see these riders a little bit of a twisting the crankset there. It keeps a pedal from hitting your lower back. Something that definitely gets old after 6 laps on a course like this.
And Eli Ezerbeet is a couple turns away and a flyover from taking his second in a row World Cup victory, Tim. He's just getting around. He's got around this corner, another one downhill, over the flyover, U-turn, finish straight, and celebration. What an outstanding ride. 2 weeks in a row, proving it, wearing the World Cup leaders jersey. Not a fluke. This is a breakout young star at the top level of cyclocross. And look at this amazing crowd here in Waterloo. As we hear, he crests this flyover. It's all down here. He celebrates, fist in the air. He has to go down and make one U-turn. Here come the high fives. Ilya Iserbit has solidified himself atop the World Cup standings today. Quickly through this corner, and he gets to come around. He's going to look up. He's going to see the finish line. He can't believe it. He can believe it, Tim. Zips up the jersey that we can't really read, gives it a quick wipe. More high five. Great appreciative crowd here. Hands in the air for Ilya Iserbit. 2 in a row to start the season.
Riding on a course straight out of Portland. We saw that sign in the final corner. This is such an epic day. Conditions, testing the riders and the equipment. Today's winner in Iserbit, hugely deserving of the accolades that he's getting. Really a master out on course, making all those sections tough off-campers, tough uphills and descents. Makes him look easy, even with a couple times hitting the ground in 2 nerds. Finishing strongly in second. He's got a solid gap. He's just trying to make it through. But what a difference a year makes. Fast, whipping over this thing in the final lap as he went on to win 2 nerds, dropping in one final time for second position.
A completely different course, even though it's in the same place, Tim. And 2, that's second 2 weeks in a row. He's battling a rider who is white hot right now on great form, but he knows the World Cup is a season-long competition. He's won it before. As he comes down here, he's going to make a quick U-turn, and he'll be at the finish for us.
In third place is going to be Michael Van Toornhout. See him coming into screen. We just saw him here on site, trying to clean up a little bit. Able to drop Gianni Vermeesch coming across the line, just 15 seconds behind that rider. So he's wondering how much more time he would have needed to try and get into second position as 2 nerds started to drop back more than a minute from Iserbit. So,
and Van Toornhout was clearly happy with that result, Tim. And here comes Gianni Vermeesch. Oh, a quick shrug of the shoulders. That bitter pill to swallow 4th 2 weeks in a row, just missing the podium. But a solid ride for a rider who has brought some incredible form in the beginning of this season, Tim.
Got a couple more riders coming in here. I'm gonna guess that next rider through would be Dan Sota from Telenet. Now it's Corne van Kessel. So Corne van Kessel here in 5th. He's got a rider finishing strongly behind him. That might be Quentin Ehrmans.
Dan Sota is showing in 11th, Tim. Must have had a problem out there.
Yeah, no, he's really dropped back. So there's Nicholas Kleppa. So 3 riders, Telenet Valois, finishing in row here. You know, the stories they're going to be telling about what happened on lap number 2 and what happened on lap number 5. My bike did this. My tires felt like that. Here's Joris Nieuwenhuis coming through in 8th position for Sunweb.
Solid ride for Joris Nieuwenhuis today. He was always in that 7th, 8th spot, and just getting through it is like a bunch of work here as we look at Jens Adams roll through in 9th place. And the next rider through should be Jim Ehrnouts to finish out our top 10. Dan Sota is showing 10th place here. Dan Sota is showing 11th. Dan Sota was really up there in the first part of this race, Tim. Something had to have happened in the last lap.
Yeah, you know, if you have a mechanical that's you know, really catastrophic, there are situations where you can see a rider drop from, you know, top 5 or top 10 straight out of there. So we'll see what we can find about him. But look at the damage that they've done to themselves and their bikes. You know, everyone's out there, but here comes Dan Sota.
And not showing any damage, but it's hard to tell. These riders are covered in mud. And Tim, these riders are going to be on a flight all day tomorrow going back to Europe, and they'll be still blinking out mud out of their eyes, won't they?
Yeah, this is one of the things that you find, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night, you find more dirt in your eyes. You wake up in the morning, you find even more dirt. Just keeps coming.
In your eyes, up your nose, in your ears. It's going to be everywhere. As we see Lars van der Haar come across the line. Lars, a real battler. He's dealt with some injuries the last few years, but he's always a fighter.
No, and he likes coming to the U.S. He was one of the first to really spend a lot of time here in the beginning parts of the year, winning Cross Vegas. Really fast rider. He enjoys the races that are a little bit more high speed, less of this mud. You know, he's able to, you know, put together strong technical finishes, but not as much as someone like Toon Aerts or someone like is Elie Iserbyt, as we see now. Steve Chanel here, the French rider, former national champion. Also one of the riders that enjoys coming to the U.S. to start his season off. 14th place for Chanel. Tom Moosen coming across in 15th.
Solid ride there from Chanel, the veteran rider Chanel and Moosen. And we see Swick coming across the line. Lawrence Swick, what happened to him today, Tim? He just was not there.
Well, two stories here. Lawrence Swick finishing in 16th, but Kerry Warner, first American, in 17th. So just 5 minutes back for Kerry, one of our mountain bike crossovers. Very strong technically. Curtis White coming through in 18th position, wearing that Pan Am Championship jersey. He had a strong 15th last weekend in Iowa, 18th today.
Another solid ride from the young American. Tim, how many people are throwing out pairs of tennis shoes tomorrow?
Or skin suits. Looks like we've got Orts here, Felipe Orts, Spanish national champion. Looks like he had a little run-in with probably one of those course stakes, you know, one of the outsides of those corners. When you lose it and crash under the barriers, you could get into trouble. Same thing with Stephen Hyde here, U.S. national champion. Top 20 for him. He's going to be happy with this just because of all the difficulties that he's had with his season preparation. Spending a lot of time off the bike last year after breaking his sternum here in Waterloo on the first lap. So good to see him getting back into the game. Loves these conditions. You know, BMX is a background for a lot of the riders that are racing at the front of the race. Same for Stephen Hyde.
I'm just taking a look at this muddy run up, and as a rider straighten their handlebars. That means he probably fell on the previous descent before then. There was a lot of, we actually saw that on the first lap when Elie Iserbyt made those 2 mistakes in a row. And the second one, he had to get in front of his bike and straighten his handlebars. That could have been disaster for Elie if he wouldn't have gotten it fixed that quickly.
Well, there's, you could definitely overuse some words in a race, but disastrous, epic, you know, battle. I mean, all those different ways you can describe this, they're all true. This is one of the toughest races that we've seen in World Cups in a very long time. So often, you know, we get used to seeing a high-speed, dry course where riders are changing position and battling and going for sprints or whatever. This kind of a race, we would call this old school, we'd call this classic, we would definitely call it epic.
And because it's never rained on this course, no one had the advantage. No one knew what this course was going to be like. It was a completely different course from the years when it was dry.
And I would bet that someone doing a lunch ride from Trek probably not spending a whole lot of time outside on a day like this. But when the world comes to visit, anything goes out there, burning in some lines on a course that will be used for many years to come, I'm sure. Doing a great job hosting the world.
Yes, if it wasn't a permanent cyclocross race, a course before here at Trek, it is now, Tim. It is burned in.
You know, if you look at Google Maps, you can actually see the course in the satellite imagery. It's pretty cool. It definitely shows that their connection to the sport is real.
Yeah, you heard it from Tim, folks. You can see it from space.
It's like Stan Godry from Park Hotel, a Dutch rider. 23rd, you know, 7 minutes, 52 seconds back. Here comes some of the back markers. Michael Vandenham, Canadian national champ there in second position, trying to get around the Swiss rider in first in that group. So fighting all the way to the line, not giving up, not one bit.
And that's a story in itself, Tim. Just to not get lapped by the world's best on a course this heavy and this hard is something. I bet when you look back through the results, you'll see how many riders were actually 80% ruled, taken out of the race. You know, probably more than half the field.
Yeah, at least. You know, looking at the lap times, that final lap, a minute slower than the fastest. And that was already at 11 minutes for lap number 1, 12 minutes for lap number 6. So shows how much that course was deteriorating, how much harder it was for riders to get around it, spending a lot more time under the barriers than going fast.
And here we're going to look again at our winner today in slow motion. The relief on his face is elation. He's excited, but such a hard race today, Tim. So much effort.
Oh, he earned that one for sure. Toon Aerts coming through here in second position, hoping that he would have been done a couple laps ago. I'm sure he looks like he was really at his limit, gave it whatever he had. Michael Van Tornhout, on the other hand, moving forward, really happy with his finish, able to get into third position.
And here's your top 10. Ellie Iserbit, Toon Aerts, Michael Van Tornhout, Johnny Vermeersch in fourth, Corner Van Kessel, Quentin Hermans, Nicholas Klepp in seventh, Joris Nieuwenhuis in eighth, Jens Adams in ninth, and Jim Aernouts in 10th. That's a lot of Belgian and Dutch riders there. Dan Sota in 11th, Thijs Aerts in 12th, Lars van der Haar in 13th place, C. Chanel in 14th, Tom Hughes in 15th, Swake in 16th. Kerry Warner, a great ride, first American, probably one of his best World Cup results ever. Tim and Curtis White in 18th, Orts, and also Stephen Hyde in 20th place today. And we're going to look some more at some of the key parts of this race coming up here shortly. We look at some muddy riders right here. Here we are. We're going to look at the start again here, Tim.
It looks like a totally different race. Everyone's so clean on the start line. Ellie Iserbit in the white on the left-hand side of the screen, getting a very good start, able to make his way to the front, while on the right, as they hit the dirt, you can just see how sideways people get, including Michael Van Tornhout at the fence.
And this is probably going to be a highlight of the mistakes that were made. This is their early separation. Vermeersch was right there, but Ellie Iserbit and Toon Aerts were out front. And here's where this was almost pure disaster for Ellie Iserbit here. He almost really damaged himself coming off that fall line.
That could have been a race-ending crash, really, if he had gone down any harder. Going around the corner, he gets his pedal stuck on that fence post, has to go back and fix it. And as right after that, we see his crash into the barrier. Really, one of the mistakes that showed how to ride the rest of the race, able to learn from that. Ellie Iserbit did a great job overcoming that issue. Toon Aerts slipping on this route as he was in the lead. Ellie Iserbit was chasing this whole time, not knowing that these issues were happening to Toon Aerts, but he never gave up, continued to press the pace.
That replay of Toon Aerts hitting his shin there was just painful to watch. And it happening right here. We're seeing this is that brilliant line that Ellie Iserbit took, the high line. He was able to ride halfway up that next run up. He went from chasing to the lead, and he really from there, he started putting time into Toon Aerts.
Starting to struggle a little bit. Toon Aerts looks like he's got a little bit of wind coming out of his sails, trying to chase down the rider. Iserbit looking over his shoulder. What is my gap? How much do I have to work with? Toon Aerts pushing it so hard back into the barrier, really fighting hard. While on the other hand, look at how he's absolutely not fazed by this at all. Ellie Iserbit crashing one more time, gets right back up again, keeps moving forward.
The composure that LA was showing for a young rider to keep his momentum was really fantastic. There's you looking just the Vermeersch and Van Tornhout battling this crosshill. What a great battle for third today, Tim. They were really right there, right together, right until the end.
Well, there's a lot to play for when you're talking about a World Cup podium. Ellie Iserbit zipping up on his way to his second World Cup victory in a row, beating Toon Aerts by 1 minute and 8 seconds as he came across the line. You can see the difference in his attitude. Michael Van Tornhout following suit. You can see him in the pack trying to get up to him, crossing just 15 seconds behind.
The fans, what an absolutely great crowd here today. Tim, they stayed out here. The rain did not drive them away. It was a fantastic turnout, and they were treated to an incredible show.
Well, I don't think anyone's getting out here without mud on them. It's a impossibility to watch a cyclocross race in conditions like this and not feel like you are in the race yourself. We've got a lot of people out there partying here. You know, when the World Cup comes to the U.S., we definitely respond. We show just how much we love this sport. You know, we're big fans of what happens out on course as much as we were when we were racing. It was always a struggle no matter what. I mean, you're trying to go fast when conditions are like this, and you're looking for the good stuff out there. And they've definitely done a great job of opening their doors and showing us, you know, showing our best to the world when they show up.
Yeah. And you think when Ellie Iserbit gets home and someone says, "Hey Ellie, how was your American vacation? How was your trip?" I think he's going to respond pretty fondly of it.
We've got Woodstock happening here.
Michael van Toerenhout, proficiat, derde plaats. Stevige cross vandaag. Hoe zwaar was het?
Ja, toch wel heel zwaar. Ik zag ook vanmorgen toen we opstonden de regenval dat het parcours veel ging veranderen. Maar ik had zelf niet gedacht dat het zoveel ging veranderen. Maar na de verkenning wisten we al dat ieder op zijn eigen plaats wel ging terechtkomen.
Toon en Eli waren heel snel met 2 eigenlijk weg. Wanneer wist je, die 2 gaan we niet meer terugzien?
Goh, na de start eigenlijk de eerste schuine kant ging ik al tegen de grond. Dus dan wist ik dat, toen zag ik direct dat Eli en Toon al weg waren. Dus op dit parcours komt de sterker man vooraan. En ik denk dat Eli en Toon vandaag wel de sterker waren. En dan ik en Gianni dan net iets minder waren. Maar ik denk dat we ook wel getoond hebben dat we in een goede conditie zijn.
En dat jij vandaag net iets beter was dan Gianni Vermeers.
Ja, je maakte ook een foutje de laatste ronde. En ik denk dat we elkaar ook wel een beetje afgewisseld hebben. En dat maakte toch wel, ik voelde wel als Gianni op kop zat dat ik iets beter, dat ik iets rapper kon. Maar ja, dan mocht je natuurlijk ook geen fout maken.
Je pakt ook revanche voor vorige week in Iowa City. Voelt dat ook zo aan?
Oh, ik weet zelf hoe hard ik ervoor gewerkt heb. En dan is het natuurlijk zoals in Iowa niet plezant om maar als 7 of als 6 en 7 over de finish te komen. Maar dan heeft dat vandaag wel meer vertrouwen naar het seizoen.
Dankjewel. 2 vragen in het Engels. Michael van Toerenhout, that was a really tough race today. How was it out there?
Yeah, it was really hard. So I like the cars and the condition was very hard, but my shape was good, and I hope I can do it the whole season.
When did you know that Toon Aerts and Eli Iserbyt were the 2 strongest in the race today?
Yeah, in the first lap I do a mistake, and then I saw Eli and Toon was stronger, and me and Gianni was a little bit behind, but at the end I came very close with Toon, but I focused on the 3rd place.
Thank you very much. Congratulations again.
And Michael Van Torenhout very pleased with his podium spot today. It's been a minute since he's been on a World Cup podium, and no stranger to racing over here, but very pleased. Amazing how quickly they get these guys cleaned up, Tim.
Eli Iserbyt, 2 op 2 hier in de Verenigde Staten, back-to-back zoals ze hier zeggen. Is dat de bevestiging van je bloedvorm?
Ja, het is niet te geloven. Hè. Toen ik viel dacht ik even van best is er vanaf, maar toen riep mijn broer in de post dat Toon al heel diep zat. En toen heb ik gewoon mijn tempo gereden en kwam ik plots op een gegeven moment heel snel terug. En toen wist ik dat ik erop en erover moest en dat was net genoeg.
Want Toon leek heel even een stevig geloofje uit te bouwen. Wat ging er toen door je heen?
Dat ik gewoon tempo moest rijden en dat ik de laatste 2 ronden nog ging versnellen. Ik wist dat ik nog niet op blok zat, maar ja, ik weet ook van vorig jaar dat Toon op het einde ook heel sterk is, dus mocht ik zeker niet over mijn toeren gaan. Ik denk dat dat wel goed gelukt is, maar ik voel op het einde van de wedstrijd dat het beste er toch absoluut af was.
Wanneer wist je eigenlijk, oké, ik ben definitief vertrokken?
Toen ik redelijk snel 20 seconden had, toen wist ik, ik passeerde Toon ook op de brug en toen zag ik echt dat hij helemaal op blok zat en toen wist ik dat ik misschien iets beter was dan hem op dat moment. En toen wist ik wel als ik dit tempo blijf aanhouden, dat ging lukken, maar ik maakte nog een paar foutjes, ik viel nog een paar keer. Dus ik kon misschien iets beter nog technisch, maar al bij al ben ik enorm tevreden.
Je hebt ook heel wat risico's genomen vandaag, hè?
Wel, eigenlijk niet, maar mijn fiets ging overal naartoe, dus het was heel moeilijk om 1 spoor te volgen. Ja, het was een beetje tjollen om het zo te zeggen en uiteindelijk ben ik een goede shoulder waarschijnlijk. Hè.
Mooi extraatje, je mag die witte leiderstrui mee naar België nemen. Wat betekent dat voor jou?
Ja, ik was daar absoluut niet op voorbereid. Vorige week was eigenlijk alles goed. Zelf moest ik stoppen vandaag, dus ik heb mijzelf verrast.
Proficiat. Engels 2 graagjes. Eli Iserbyt, congratulations, back-to-back victory here in the United States. What does this mean for you?
It means a lot. Yeah, before we came to America, I said to myself, top 7, top 8 in the GC was really, really good. Me and my trainer also had a plan to just be good in the beginning of the season because Mathieu and Wout are not here. But yeah, that it's going like this, it's unbelievable.
The conditions weren't easy today, and you had to take some risks, it seemed like.
Yeah, I didn't want to take any risks, but the track is really difficult, and yeah, it's a technical part around every corner. Every straight part is difficult, and yeah, you just go from left to right, and the bike is choosing its own way, and you just have to follow the bike, and yeah, sometimes it's not easy.
It sounds not that easy. And now you get to take the white leading jersey in the World Cup back to Belgium. What does that mean?
It means a lot. I'm used to wearing it from the under-23 and the junior series, but at the elite, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's like a dream. I can't believe it at the moment.
Congratulations, thank you.
As we're getting another look in slow motion as our victor, Eli Iserbyt, takes his second in a row World Cup victory to start the season here.
Toon Aerts, tweede vandaag, net zoals vorige week, proficiat. Op een gegeven moment leek je vertrokken, je had een kloofje uitgebouwd en dan kwam Eli Iserbyt helemaal terug. Wat gebeurde er allemaal?
Ja, ik denk dat op een gegeven moment Eli in de fout ging of zo, want ik kreeg eigenlijk vrij gemakkelijk die 15-tal seconden denk ik bij elkaar. Dus ik probeerde wel even door te zetten, maar misschien dat ik daarmee iets over mijn toer ging, want ik heb de ronde daarna 3 grote fouten gemaakt waarmee ik telkens wel wat seconden verloor. En ja, toen voelde ik ook dat Eli heel snel terugkwam en ook heel snel terug van me wegreed.
Welke invloed hebben de omstandigheden hier eigenlijk gehad op jouw cross?
Ja, het is moeilijk. Hè. Ten eerste met materiaal. We hebben natuurlijk niet al ons materiaal ter beschikking hier. We hebben maar 2 fietsen. Dus met de hoeveelheid renners die we hier aan de start stonden vandaag, was ook niet elke halve ronde de fiets terug proper. Dus we konden niet altijd wisselen. Dus dat maakt het wel moeilijk, zeker in deze weersomstandigheden. Maar het is voor iedereen hetzelfde, dus we moeten daarmee om kunnen.
Zeker met de materiaalpech die jij ook wel gehad hebt.
Ja, ik heb een paar problemen gehad. Er wordt wel gezegd dat ik lek heb gereden, dat is niet waar. Dus daar ga ik het ook altijd zeker niet op steken. Ik steek het vooral op de benen vandaag en op Eli die vandaag voor het outstanding was.
2 tweede plaatsen in de VS. Met welk gevoel ga je nu terug naar huis?
Ik kan daar al wel tevreden mee zijn. Wout van Aert werd vorig jaar ook 2 keer tweede in de eerste 2 manches. En uiteindelijk was het nog spannend om de wereldbeker tot de laatste manche. Dus dat is voorlopig nog altijd een doel dat ik heb. En waarvoor ik goed op koers lig om misschien de wereldbeker nog mee te doen voor de overwinning.
Dankjewel. Ja. Toon Aerts, second place today, just like last week in Iowa City. It seemed like you were gone at a certain time in the beginning of the race, but then Eli Iserbyt came back. What happened?
I think Eli was making a mistake when I get all those seconds, and I was thinking I have to go full gas to gain some gap on Eli. So I do it, but maybe that was a little bit too much for me, and I made many mistakes after that because I may be a little bit tired. But we saw that Eli was coming very fast. He closed the gap very fast, and then he was with me, and directly he was again away. So Eli was better today.
What kind of impact did the circumstances have here in Waterloo?
It wasn't easy to get every lap a new bike. There were a lot of riders today, and because it was so busy in the pit zone, not every half lap your bike was again ready to race. So the team members have to call to me to say, yeah, you can change bike or you can't. And yeah, it was difficult, but everybody is racing on his best, and every man in the pit zone did his job, and it's not easy. It's part of racing a cyclocross.
Thank you very much. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And Tim, we just heard from our 3 podium finishers. Here are the current Cyclo-cross World Cup standings. Tim Eli Iserbyt leads Toon Aerts, Vermeersch in 3rd, Van Tornout in 4th, Sept in 5th, Herman 6th, Sweeck 7th, Van der Haar in 8th place, Jim Aernouts in 9th, and Nicholas Klepp rounding out the top 10.
So it's a really long season out there. So a start like this, we saw it last year with Toon Aerts, and we saw how Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel were able to really close down on that early lead that Toon Aerts started with. So we'll see how this year shapes up, but an excellent start for the rider in the middle.
Yeah, you can't get much better than that. As we're starting to look at our podium here, as we bring up our top 3 on the podium here in Waterloo, Wisconsin.
The Powell Cezanne Bingle team getting 2 riders on the podium here today. Overall leader. Very successful trip. You know, some of the teams deciding not to race a full World Cup schedule, choosing to stay in Belgium. Definitely looking at these results, wishing that they were here. Toon Aerts familiar to the podium. okay with second. His interview is pretty clear about how he basically played the game a little bit wrong. You know, he didn't quite have his tactics down right, paid the price, but it's really difficult to race against a rider like Iserbyt, who is so strong.
Right, and at the same time, he knows it's a very long season, Tim. He knows it's a marathon to keep the points, but he does want to go back with as many points in hand, knowing there's other riders that are going to be coming to these races.
Pretty good fashion test there. Eli Iserbyt with white sneakers on the podium. He's not going to be able to walk back to his team truck. He's going to have to be carried, but he is a king, so we'll see if he's able to make that happen. Eli Iserbyt holding the flowers aloft. You're going to be able to hear the Belgian national anthem and get the jersey. Special presentation. Earlier winner, Katarina Nash. She's also on the UCI committee as a rider representative. So she's one of our most successful female athletes in cycling. Fresh off of her win, obviously taking time to take a shower while the men were out there racing, but it's great that she comes back and is able to deliver that leader's jersey as she shares the exact same one herself.
Second trip to the podium today for Katarina Nash, and looking a little less muddy, like you said. There is your World Cup leader, Eli Iserbyt. 2 for 2, undefeated so far. He's got to be looking to keep the streak going as he gets back to Europe. The Belgian fans are out today. The supporters are out. Tim, fantastic crowds here today in Waterloo.
All weekend long. Lots of passionate cyclocross racers and fans.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, let's get loud for Michael Van Tour now. Going on to your champion, Iserbyt.
And there's your final podium here. We are done for the day. For Tim Johnson, I am Johnny Sun. Thank you for joining us here today. Have a wonderful afternoon.
I'm going to sign off on behalf of myself, Scott Herman, and my co-announcer, Julie Herman.